Welcome to SGT Times Explainer. I'm Ashutosh. In today's explainer, we'll discuss in detail what happened in the Uphaar Cinema tragic situation. The 25-year-old tragedy has again come into relevance after release of Netflix series Trial by Fire based on this. A massive fire burst out at Uphaar Cinema in Delhi's Green Park on June 13, 1997 during a screening of J.P. Datta's Border. After being imprisoned in the hall, 59 individuals died of asphyxiation, while 103 were critically injured in the falling scramble to escape. Victims and families of the deceased then founded the Association of Victims of Uphaar Fire Tragedy and sued for compensation. A long court struggle ensued in an attempt to hold the theatre's owners responsible. On January 13, Netflix premiered the miniseries Trial by Fire based on the 2016 book of the same name. The program tells the story of the catastrophe and the subsequent legal fight through the eaves of Neelam and Shekhar Krishnamurthy, the parents of two children who died in the fire. Here's what transpired in the Uphaar Cinema's fire. On that fateful day, the larger of the two transformers installed on the ground level of Uphaar Cinema building caught fire early in the morning. While the fire was swiftly extinguished, it did cause damage to the transformer. Quick repairs were made to have it up and running before the movie theaters opened. The shoddy nature of these repairs was said to be cause of a much bigger fire later in the day. The transformer caught fire again at 5 p.m. after one of the mended wires became loose and caused strong sparking because the transformer lacked an oil soak. As required by standards, the burning oil spilled out. Cars parked as close as meter from the transformer's entrance were also enveloped in flames. The fire had gotten out of hand by this point. Thick smoke billowed above. Moviegoers trapped at the Uphaar Cinema struggled to leave. While the fire itself did not have to be the end of so many lives, the film industry was badly equipped for such an event. As the theaters lost electricity, smoke invaded the auditorium, causing full mayhem. While those on the lower floor were able to flee, those on the balcony were stuck. Asphyxiation claimed the lives of 59 persons. A stampede also resulted in several injuries. Importantly, owing to the traffic, fire tenders waited over an hour to get to the scene. Safety precautions designed for emergencies were not in place at the ill-fated theatre. Senior counsel Harish Salve, arguing for the Central Bureau of Investigation, told the Delhi High Court in 2007. The individuals who benefited financially from the running of the cinema were criminally accountable for the breaches. The several flaws that contributed to the Uphaar Cinema disaster: first, the generator that caught fire was placed in violation of many regulations. It was not only lacking in sufficient safety precautions, but it was also located in parking lot. This meant that the fire could not be quickly put out as automobiles with tank full of extremely flammable gasoline caught fire. Furthermore, as the inquiry eventually discovered, the generator had not received the needed quarterly maintenance. Second, as Harish Salve pointed out, the hall lacked basic safety safeguards and procedures. The cinema had no exit lights, footlights or emergency lights, so when the power went off, the auditorium became completely dark. There was also no public address system to notify moviegoers of the fire. It took a while for visitors to see there was a large fire in structure in the darkness of the movie hall. Third, since the hall made unapproved additions to boost seating capacity, numerous exits were barred and gangways were obstructed. Various unlicensed enterprises were also operating within the building, occupying sections that were meant to be vacant. The legal history of Uphaar Cinema victims and family members of the deceased attempted to hold the theatre owners accountable in a protracted court struggle. The identities of 16 defendants were listed in the original charge sheet submitted by the investigating CBI, including the owners Sushil and Gopal Ansal. The trial, on the other hand, would be long and drawn out, with many twists and turns. Even today, the quest for justice continues with an ongoing case of evidence tampering against the Ansals. A decade after the disaster, the trial court issued its judgment, convicting the Ansal brothers of criminal negligence and imposing a 2-year jail term, the maximum allowable in such a case. The conviction was affirmed by the Delhi High Court a year later, but the punishment was reduced to 1 year. The case was heard by the Supreme Court for over a decade. In 2017, the Supreme Court ordered the two brothers to pay a fine of 30 crore each, which would be used to build a trauma center. Sushil Ansal, who had already served 5 months in prison, was released without further punishment due to his age and health issues. Gopal was sentenced to 2 years in jail. Compensation for the deceased kin was set at 10 lakh for individuals above the age of 20 and 7.5 lakh for those under the age of 20. Each injured individuals get 1 lakh rupees. In a separate instance, the brothers were charged with a tampering with evidence. A Delhi High Court sentenced both of them to 7 years in jail for tampering with evidence in 2021. The court also levied a 2.5 crore fine on each of the Ansals. This case is still ongoing and the brothers have filed an appeal against their conviction. There is no closure for the victims of Uphaar Cinema. We didn't spend as much time for our children on this earth as we have to pursue justice for their deaths. We have been serving a living death sentence for last 26 years and it's still going. Shekhar and Neelam Krishnamurthy told the Indian Express ahead of the debut of the Netflix program that chronicles the couple's fight for justice. Sushil and Gopal Ansal stepped out of prison on July 19 last year. While acknowledging that nothing could repay the victims' families for their losses, the court ruled that the ruling was based on brothers' ages. The court procedure, which has gone on for nearly 2.5 decades, has left many people unhappy. This is reflected in a victims' memorial in a park across from the cinema. A wall of the monument quotes Martin Luther King Jr., "No, no, we are not pleased and will not be satisfied until justice rushes down like water and righteousness like a mighty torrent." That's all for today in SGT Times Explainer. Thanks for watching.